What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. So you may recall I did a video a few days ago about a storm named Lee that was at the time a tropical storm. And I said that by later this week, not only would Lee be a hurricane, matter of fact, it was only 4 miles away, if I recall correctly, at the time from being classified as a hurricane, 4 miles per hour wind speed. But I said that it's forecasted to become a major hurricane, probably a Category 4, possibly a Category 5 by this weekend. Well, Lee has undergone record intensity or record intensification over the past 24 hours. It's gone from a Category 1 hurricane with maximum sustained winds of 80 miles an hour to one of the strongest hurricanes that we've seen in the Atlantic as a Category 5 storm with 165 mile per hour sustained winds and gusts over 200 miles per hour. And it is expected, due to the fact that it's now in very favorable environment with very little to no wind shear and extremely warm waters, is expected to strengthen further to at least 180 miles an hour. But I got a sinking suspicion that it may strengthen more than that. Now, oftentimes these storms have a cutoff because of, I think it's called eye wall replacement cycling. So oftentimes that will sort of take a little punch temporarily out of the storm. But when I'm thinking of the strongest storms in the Atlantic in its history since they've been recorded, these things have been recorded, I think of Hurricane Wilma, which I think had 180 mile an hour winds. I think of the Florida Keys hurricane that struck in 1935, 185 mile per hour winds. Hurricane Camille, 175 mile per hour winds. Officially, though some say Camille was actually more around 200 mile an hour. So I tend to think of those storms, but I think Irma a little while ago, was at 2017, got up to about 180 briefly, or 170. But the big story is, for us in the United States, will this storm affect us? And right now, the thinking is that a trough that's going to scoop to the East Coast around the time Lee's going to be making a trajectory toward the East Coast, or toward at least the Northeast. The thinking is that the trough is going to veer Lee out to sea. All right, now that's the thinking. But as with any type of storm that gets that close to the coast, you go with what the odds are, but you always got to keep a lookout for these things, though. You know what I'm saying? You always got to keep a lookout just to make sure that, this storm is doing what they say. Because one thing they're sure of is that Lee's going to make a turn to the north, but you got to wonder exactly when is this storm going to make that turn to the north and then veer northeast. So, being that I'm on the East Coast, I know some of my subscribers are on the East Coast, you got to keep a lookout on this type of thing, for this type of weather. Especially when you consider that, when you look at the East Coast, right, I'm trying not to be funny, but, if you look at the East Coast map, right, North Carolina sort of sits out like a ass, like it's the booty of the East Coast. So what I'm saying is, it sort of sticks out. So any hurricane that parallels the coast, that region, the Mid-Atlantic region, even where I live at, could be affected more. Now, maybe not a direct hit, and by the time Lee would theoretically get to us anyway, it would be much weaker because of the fact that it would have to encounter wind shearing, and the waters are just cooler off the coast of Mid-Atlantic. So, but still, like I said, I just want to do an update on this particular storm and keep you guys abreast of the situation in case you haven't been following this particular storm. But right now, Lee is one of the most powerful hurricanes in the history of the Atlantic, and I think that an advisory may have just come out. Let me see if I can see any updates. Last I saw, it had 165 mile per hour sustained winds. Let me see something right quick. All right. I don't see any updates. Okay. Okay. All right. According to the latest advisory, shearing has weakened Lee a little bit. It's now Category 4. But its maximum sustained winds are 155 miles an hour. But that's only 2 miles shy of being a Cat 5. So it's right there. I mean, it's weakened by about 10 miles an hour, but it's still an extremely powerful hurricane. And it's probably going to fluctuate back and forth, but it's still forecasted to strengthen. So we'll see, man. But tell me what you guys think.